So now I'm going to turn over and introduce our first speaker. As the CTO of United Talent Agency, Michael Keithley is responsible for all technology at the agency. In this capacity, he advises their clients and companies in emerging digital business models, distribution and other platforms, and other technology-related issues. In addition to managing their IT department, he's active in corporate consulting, marketing, venture funding, and strategic advisoring companies, and strategic advisoring services to Fortune 500 companies. So he's really sat at the intersection between Hollywood here and Silicon Valley up north. Prior to joining UTA, he was with Creative Arts Agents, CAA, which is the other big firm in town. So with that, I'll turn it over to Michael to give our first presentation.
All right, thank you everybody, and thank you for allowing me to come speak. I feel honored to be here at Caltech. I'm born and raised in Southern California, and it's the first time I've been here, so it's a big joy for me. I spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley and Hollywood. In Silicon Valley up on Sand Hill Road, I invest. I'm an LP in a fund. I advise Sequoia, Greylock, Mayfield, Lightspeed, et cetera. So I spent a lot of time between Hollywood and Silicon Valley. And I'm going to try to answer 5 key questions here today. The first one is, what is AI and generative AI? And I'm going to do it at a high level. I'm sure Anima will be able to talk all the gory details at a lower level if you're interested. Should we be optimistic or pessimistic about kind of AI's impact on humanity? That's something that people are always really interested in. What effect will it have on jobs in general, and what effect will it have on your job specifically? I'm going to talk a little bit about that. How it will affect knowledge workers and the creative workplace and Hollywood in general. I have some interesting examples and thoughts on that. And then finally, what should you do? What's the takeaway here after this? And I hope you'll enjoy this. The first thing I want to say is that this is different, okay? This is not like some of the tech hype cycles we've seen before. And people tend to oh yeah, I've seen it before, blockchain, crypto, metaverse, pick your thing. They kind of say this will come and go. And I'm here to tell you this is different. This is a fundamental shift in everything we know, how we work, how we play, how we live. Okay, so what is AI? And really the reason we're here is in November 30th of the last year, ChatGPT 3 came out, and boom, it's everywhere. It was like magic. It was like AI was just invented to the world. So if you weren't, studying in it or knowing about it, this is probably the first time you heard about it. This whole thing of generative AI, it's on every newspaper, every news show. Boards are talking about it. CEOs are talking about it. It's the thing, and that's the reason we're all kind of here today. And once ChatGPT came out, Google, Microsoft, and Meta were forced. Their hand was forced. A arms race is now going on with AI. And so they were compelled, even though they've been working on this for a long time, they were kind of caught a little bit flat-footed and weren't quite ready to release their versions or their kind of competitive things. And then in the image space, Midjourney is probably the big dog there. DALL-E is quickly catching up, if not surpassing it. And Stable Diffusion is probably the third one, and the interesting thing about Stable Diffusion is it's open source, and you all know the kind of good and bad and the great things about the open source community. It's the fastest consumer application to 1 million users in history. What took Netflix 3.5 years, ChatGPT did in 5 days. So, venture capital, which I think is very, is part of my world. I've never seen anything quite like this. I mean, there's lots of hype cycles that have come and gone, but there is literally nothing like this. Every firm, everybody, they're just falling over themselves. AI. And, if you look at kind of some of the categories that they've been investing in, it's just amazing how broad all the different types of areas that the investments are happening. And these are just, some of the things, eye charts of the logos, not that important. And all those companies are creating apps. In fact, this was a 1 week period, probably about two months ago or so, where there are 200 AI apps that were released in the Apple App Store. Mind-blowing amount of creativity and things like that. If you look, it's a little bit different way to look at it. These are websites, and this is the traffic to the websites. Obviously, ChatGPT is at the top, but you can see this is only the top 50. There's hundreds more beyond this. And so, I want to talk a little bit about generative AI, and it's as simple as you input text and it outputs images, text, etc. These are large language models. I know this is kind of a remediary, but LLMs is the big thing, how people talk about this. Let's see if we get this. And what they're doing, just to boil it down to be really simple, is these LLMs are essentially asking over and over again, given the text so far, what's the next word going to be? And it gets really good at that, okay? And these models, there are literally thousands of them. If anybody's heard about Hugging Face, you can go on there and you can see all the models. Of course, we all know about GPT-4, right? And Claude maybe, but there are all kinds of special purpose models. There are ones for legal stuff, there's for music, for, you name it. And so there's these foundational broad models that can do anything, and there's very specific ones. And in the time I will give this speech, there'll be new ones that add it. It's going so quick. And this is all based on ML, machine learning, which is basically allows computers to learn by feeding massive amounts of data, literally hoovering in the internet, and then it gets really good at recognizing patterns, and it can predict outcomes. Pretty simple, right? And this is another foundational thing is neural networks. You've probably heard of that, but it's basically trying to mimic the way the brain works, okay? And creating these models, these mathematical models of how the human brain works, and literally creating these artificial neurons that communicate with each other. And then the huge breakthrough, the kind of transformative thing was, 5 years ago, Google released a paper on transformers. Okay, and this is what blew everything up. And what transformers do is they allow context. Okay, and context is so important, and that allows these models to do these relationships in sequential data, and that's what allows them to predict what the very next word is. And then lastly, GPT, which is kind of becoming a common term, is a general purpose transformer. Okay? The point, if you leave nothing else what I say today, the one thing I want everybody to take away is the pace of change, how fast this is going, okay? It's unlike anything we've ever seen before. And if you think about, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? This is Midjourney with the exact same prompt over 15 months. Look at how much that's improved in 15 months with the exact same prompt. It's amazing how fast this is happening, okay? And we all think about GPT-4. Well, recently, a couple of weeks ago, it's now multimodal, okay? They didn't even make it 4.1. It's still just 4.0. But now it can see, it can hear, and it can speak.
ChatGPT just announced a major update. It can now see, hear, and speak. It'll be completely multimodal. Let me show you what that means. So firstly, you can now use voice to engage in a back and forth conversation. And this is a preview of the future of voice assistants like Siri and Alexa, hopefully. What I really love about multimodality is that you can now use images to give context. So for example, you don't know how to lower your bike seat, you can send the image to ChatGPT and it'll give you step-by-step instructions. And you can go back and forth conversationally as you would with your handyman father on FaceTime. So for example, you can send a picture of the manual and your toolbox and it'll tell you what you need to complete the job.
This is a game changer. And this isn't even like, once again, it's not 4.1. This is just, hey, we're just going to add this in. Okay, this multimodality is a huge, huge thing. Okay, so for 60 years or so, AI, as was mentioned earlier, hey, it can win in chess, it can do, whatever, Jeopardy, win at Jeopardy, predict proteins, etc. And then when this transformer came out and ChatGPT 3 came out, we're now on this exponential curve, okay? And Tuesday night, I had dinner with Sam Altman and a bunch of other folks from Meta and other places, and Sam said, confidentially, hey, if there was no legal or political or regulatory or other pressures, we would release a new version of the model every 8 months. And the difference between 4 and 5, and I've seen 5, blow your mind. I mean, it's going to be such a quantum shift from what we know before. And then if you think about, okay, 8 months later, a year later, 6, and then 7, and then 8. The pace of change that this is going on and what the implications for all of us are going to be mind-blowing. So this is what I want you to take away, this exponential growth. Okay, this is the most important thing. And I try to drive this point home. I'm sure you've all seen some version of this sometime in your life. You know, if you double a penny for 30 days, it's worth over $5 million, right? And that people kind of blows their mind, but it's that compound interest, it's that exponential growth that I'm sure you're all aware of. So, should we be optimistic or pessimistic about the impact of AI on humanity? To be honest, to me, it's a coin toss. I don't know which way it could go. It's like 50-50. And I'll make the case for and against, and you can decide. So, let me get here. So Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google, says this is, as profound and impactful as fire and electricity. Now that's a pretty big thing, right? And other people say this is, more impactful than the scientific revolution and the industrial revolution combined. Wow, really? Okay, that's big stuff. But there are other people like Geoffrey Hinton, who's the godfather of AI, that recently resigned kind of in protest from Google. He had his Oppenheimer moment, and he realized, like, oh my God, what have I brought into society? And if anybody watched 60 Minutes last week, he was on it, and pretty terrifying what he's saying and what his concerns are. And he says there'll be great things that AI will bring us, especially in the near term. It's just amazing things. But bad people will do bad things. And it's kind of like, the way I think about it is social media. If you remember when early Twitter days and kind of the Arab Spring, and this is like, going around all the traditional media outlets and governments and everything else. But then bad actors end up kind of taking it over and doing bad things on social media. And that's what his concern is here. So in my world, okay, we just finally got through the writer's strike, and now we're still dealing with SAG. And AI went from a kind of a throwaway issue to the issue as they got more educated on this. And Justine Bateman is in the world, has been on the board of the guilds. She went back to school at UCLA, got her computer science degree, so she actually understands kind of this whole AI thing and what's really happening. And her assessment is it's now or never. We got to go to the mat, because if we wait 3 years, which is the next opportunity to negotiate again, it's too late. It's like game over. And I tend to agree with her. And so the sad thing is, if they do go to the mat and the studios go to the mat, this strike probably won't be resolved anytime soon. I hope that's not the case, but it's really a serious thing right now. And 61% of Americans polled recently think AI threatens humanity's future. The bottom line is, we don't know, right? We don't know. That's why it's kind of a 50-50 thing. So, what effect will it have on jobs? This is another really kind of interesting thing, and I love using this picture anytime I talk about, disruptive technology. And if you think about it, this guy who's up on the horse and carriage looks down and goes, what the heck is that? What is that thing? He doesn't know how to process it. He doesn't know how to think about it. And oh, it's obvious. It's a horseless carriage, right? Okay. And he kind of dismisses it. But over time, these horseless carriages start to take over. And, well, what's going to happen to jobs? What's going to happen to the blacksmith who makes the shoes, and who makes the wheels and the carriages and blah, 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 right? And so there's a period where people are really concerned about this new technology coming and taking over. I'm an optimist when it comes to jobs and what the AI's impact will be on jobs, because every time from the printing press to electricity, you name it, whatever else it is, it's always expanded jobs. There's this period where people do lose, the old jobs do go away or diminish dramatically. But there's no way this guy sitting down here and looking at this quote-unquote horseless carriage can ever comprehend what the global automotive industry would become, right? Or from a technical perspective, how could he ever think about Android Auto or Apple CarPlay? There's just no way he can conceptualize that stuff. So I am an optimist when it comes to this, but not everybody is. And just as a complete aside here, there's a great website that you can take any black and white photo and click on it, and it will automatically color it. So Goldman Sachs says 300 million jobs are at risk in the next decade, okay? That's the size of this entire country, okay? So that's pretty serious if they're anywhere close to being right. And I highlighted here some of the categories, the breakdown that were really relevant to our agency. But the interesting thing about this is, and McKinsey says, the more educated you are, the more at risk you are. And this is the first time this has been the case, okay? Almost every, or maybe every other disruptive technology, it usually affects the kind of bottom of the folks that are educated, and also income. The more money you make, the more exposed you are. So this is a real flip from other disruptive technologies. So, like I said, Sam Altman, had dinner with him Tuesday, and he said in a 10-year time frame, he believes that AI will displace 80% of 80% jobs. There are some jobs it will not affect at all, mostly manual, like plumbers or nurses maybe, or what have you. But almost every other job, it's going to not completely replace it, because you're still going to need humans in the loop to do stuff and to kind of fact check. I'll talk a little bit more about kind of the reason you need to fact check this generative AI. But that's pretty profound. And he said the only thought he could think of was we're going to have some version of universal basic income. Or if you ever watched Star Trek, kind of as an optimistic way of looking at what we would do with our free time. So what effect will AI have on your job? Okay, good news, okay? AI is not going to replace your job. But a human that uses AI will take your job. So you need to learn how to leverage AI, or you'll wake up and find out you're out of a job. And that's really an important message here. So AI is just a tool, okay? It's no different than other tools that have come along, and we need to think about it that way. We need to realize that it's complex, and so as leaders in this, we need to kind of demystify it for the public and for other people. It's not the boogeyman, we immediately go to Terminator and all these bad things, but you gotta think about it. If you have a cell phone, which I bet you all do, right? You use AI. A lot of, maybe most of the apps that are on your phone, you're using AI. You might not know it, okay? Nothing terribly bad has happened to you, so AI in and of itself isn't gonna kill you. Likewise, if you drive a modern car like a Tesla or anything like that, you're using AI. So it's not the boogeyman. We gotta really demystify this. And how will it affect knowledge workers and the creative community? If you're in an office type situation, good news is that all of the major SaaS vendors are falling all over themselves to include AI. And there's some real good stuff out of this. I like to call it, free beer, where we don't really have to do anything. Our vendors that we're using, if you're Microsoft Office or Google or what have you, you're going to start to get the goodness of AI, and that's going to really help us. Now, that's not going to give you competitive advantage. Everybody has this, but it's just a general productivity boost that we're all going to get. And then in the creative workplace, I'm going to give you some examples, once again, kind of a picture's worth 1,000 words, that I think of some things that will be kind of thought-provoking. So the first one is image editing.
Any photo or object and then manipulate it however you want. So you drag the part of the photo you want to change, and GAN, which are generative adversarial networks, provides precise control over the pose, shape, expression, and layout of the object. So change any image you want into whatever you want.
It's hard to believe anything you see anymore now. So the next thing is automation and automating things in your business processes.
Called CheatLayer. It's a full automation AI for your business. You can ask CheatLayer to upload tweets about a certain topic on Twitter at 10 a.m. every single day, and it will do it. You can ask it to scrape listing prices off Amazon, and will open up a Google Sheet and start writing down the listing, prices, and description. And here's what's truly incredible about it. If you ask it to do something it does already know how to do, like find out the exact population of Chicago, it will write out the code on the spot to get the answer for you.
So this next one, before I play it, I want you to think of Don Draper and Mad Men and the whole Madison Avenue world. what you're about to see was what Coca-Cola, a assistant at Coke, created this commercial. So, this was somebody typing some words into an LLM, creating a commercial. An assistant did this. Think about what that's going to do to Madison Avenue, right? Okay, and the assistant could create 100 of these for free, really quickly.
This new tool is called
Gaming.
AI, which allows you to develop environments, buildings, characters, objects. It is so damn cool. There's already a ton of games out there which essentially have in-game editors to build your own levels, like Minecraft or Roblox, even something like Super Mario Maker, and they're so popular. I have the perfect AI tool for
Animation.
Cascadeur speeds up the process with auto pose and auto physics. Why is this amazing? Well, normally animators have to painstakingly rig the character and then move every individual node as the character moves. But now you can use AI to rig the characters easily, and then you can move one individual node and it's gonna move the remaining around it to the most natural pose.
As an actor, I pretend for a living. I play fictitious characters, often solving fictitious problems.
I believe that mankind has looked at climate change in that same way as a work of fiction.
So imagine that you could take a regular 2D video and turn it into a detailed 3D structure. With NVIDIA's new Neuralangelo, that is now a possibility. You can generate lifelike virtual replicas of buildings, sculptures, and other real-world objects. It can even translate the textures of complex materials like roof shingles, panes of glass, or smooth marble. So if you're building a 3D game or environment, you can now generate your assets by taking simple videos on your phone. And it goes beyond objects. If you need large-scale vistas and landscapes, send your drone up there.
This is going to have profound impact in the entertainment industry.
I feel like it's my duty now to bring you the latest and greatest in AI, and this new tool in particular is really blowing my mind. It's a web-based editor called Wonder Studio by Wonder Dynamics, and it automatically animates lights and composes CGI characters into a live-action scene. No 3D software or production hardware is needed, and the system automatically detects the actor's performance based on a single camera footage, and then it takes that and transfers it to the CG character of your choice, automatically animated, lit, and composed. The company has a stellar advisory board, including Joe Russo and Steven Spielberg, and in an industry that's overbooked and extremely costly, I'm very, very eager to see how this technology advances to augment the process of VFX.
And this last one was a real shot across the bow of the music industry. And we're kind of internally calling it the Napster moment for AI for music.
This is the new hit song from Drake and The Weeknd. It's called Heart on My Sleeve. They're rapping about exes, Selena, the usual. As soon as I heard it, I knew it was an instant banger. But wait a second. This isn't Drake or The Weeknd rapping. This was made by Ghostwriter 977, a random dude wearing a bedsheet and sunglasses on TikTok. He used AI to make the whole thing. Now the scary part is that it's good. It's really good. So good that it's been trending this weekend because fans thought it was a real song that had gotten leaked.
And that made a lot of headlines and really woke up everybody to the reality of what's going on. So just to kind of wrap this up, what should you do now? What's the takeaway here? And my advice is you've got to continue to educate yourself about AI. It is changing all the time. Every single day there's new stuff, there's new breakthroughs, and you've got to keep up on this. You need to start exploring it by actually using it, okay? And in order to do that, you need to learn what's called prompt engineering. For all of these generative AI things, you type something in, right? And the general thing that happens to most senior people that I talk to is I say, hey, have you used ChatGPT? They go, oh yeah, I've used it, sure. Okay, I said, great, show me. And they go to their computer and they don't really know what to do. And I'd say, well, you got to go to OpenAI and you got to create an account and everything else. And I turn my laptop around and I already have it up on the screen. I say, go ahead. And they, once again, they're a little not sure. And they think about it like Google. They just type in a couple words and expect to have like a Google-like experience. And so it's really important for me to help them understand and get that aha moment of prompts. So I ask them, what's going on in your life? Maybe not at your work, but maybe outside your philanthropies or your kids or whatever else. And we try to drill down on something. And I start to type it in, whatever it is. And my boss, the first time I did this, he's on the board of a bank, and he's on the risk committee. And I said, well, ask ChatGPT what would be good things. And all of a sudden he's like, whoa, this is amazing. And then we start drilling down. I show him how to like summarize it and refine it and do these things. And you have to experience it, I think, to really understand the power of this. Otherwise, you just won't get it. So there are some concerns we need to worry about, we need to think about. First of all, is personally identifiable information. This kind of goes without saying, but don't put any of your personal information in there because it's going right back up into the public cloud and being hoovered up into this. Similarly, confidential information for your company or your school, whatever it is, it's super important that you don't put that in there, because if you put confidential data in there, it's now in the public domain, and they use this for training. And some of the big companies are starting to ban ChatGPT because they're worried about leaking intellectual property as they're starting to see it come into the models. The other thing you need to know about is what's called hallucinations, okay? And you probably heard that term, but these models make stuff up, and they make it up in a very convincing way. So it's really important, and this is part of the 80% thing that Sam was saying. We always have to have a human in the loop to kind of do a sanity check. And I remember the first time I used Google's Bard app, I'm a big Lakers fan, and they were in the playoffs, and I asked it something, and the first 4 or 5 paragraphs were spot on, perfect, it was amazing. In the 5th paragraph, it started talking about players that have never, ever been on the Lakers. And I'm like, what? And so that happens, and the way that it regurgitates it back to us seems so factual. And there's been a lot of cases in the news around attorneys that have gotten in trouble that have used ChatGPT, citing precedent of cases that didn't exist, that were just made up. So you really got to be careful of these hallucinations. There's a big debate on whether this is a solvable problem or not in this LLM world. We'll see. And then deepfakes and just, you've seen some of the examples I gave of how you can manipulate stuff. Quite frankly, and it's especially troubling now what's going on in the world and with elections, et cetera. You literally just can't believe anything you see and hear. That's why live, me actually looking at you, I can believe that. Pretty much everything else, I gotta think twice. And this is, I'm about to play just a few seconds of a video. This is our CEO, and basically I just pointed a free deepfake audio clone tool to a podcast he did a couple minutes of that, and we were able to create this
Hey team,
thing.
Jeremy here with a message about the future of UTA. As you all know, the entertainment industry is always evolving, always changing.
So the point is, you just can't believe anything anymore. And there's a lot of approaches through watermarking and laws and other things that are trying to address this, but have your skeptical hat on. It's important to put up guardrails, and that's what I've done internally, and anybody who's rolling this out in any kind of institution needs to create these guardrails. So we created a quote-unquote safe version of ChatGPT. Microsoft has, they're partnered with OpenAI, and so we have our own proprietary one. So when we put our clients' contracts and all of our data in there, it stays within our little world. We also created a Slack version of this that lots of, especially the younger folks, really like to interface with. We also have Box, the file storage thing, and Box AI, and we have a whole bunch of real value. It's very simple. If you think about all the contracts that we have in there, you can now query that and get all kinds of interesting things. And we have an entire script library of 500,000 scripts over the last 20, 30 years, and you can do really interesting things with that. We're staying away from the kind of controversial stuff that the writers are concerned about. But for example, one of the use cases is in our marketing division, we represent General Motors. They're coming out with a new electric vehicle, and we could query it, and we could say, give me 10 scripts that would be good for this new electric Corvette, and tell me why, and for product placement purposes. And there's just a bunch of real kind of out-of-the-box great stuff you can get with Box. And so prompt engineering, one of the first things I tell everybody is to ask ChatGPT, tell me what else you need to do this, right? And it would be really good at telling you and helping you write these prompts. So act as if you're my personal trainer, create a weekly workout regimen and a meal plan for me. Tell me what else you need to do this. And it's really good at doing that. I always advise people treat AI like an intern. It's going to make mistakes. It's going to hallucinate. Tell it, it'll get better. It does. It's really good. Refine your results. This is really the kind of the superpower where you regenerate, refine it, simplify, summarize. This is amazing. I mean, you can literally say, summarize War and Peace, and you'll get it, or any kind of documents or text or pretty much anything. It's really good to have like a context for things, and as I said, act as if you're a tutor on the SATs, act as if you're a professor, act as if whatever. That's a really good way to kind of start ChatGPT to getting in the mode of what you're looking for. So act, this is kind of a model, act as whatever the role is, create a task, what do you want it to do, and output it. Do you want it to write a web page? Do you want a movie? Do you want a spreadsheet? Do you want a whatever? And if you kind of take this format, I think you'll be on your way to getting some really good prompts. This is another a little bit more complex, but even better way where you talk about the instructions and the context, and you put the input data and the output data. And if whatever you're trying to accomplish, if you do something with this level of specificity, you're going to get really good results. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick example of something that really worked at my agency. I was down the hall from the head of our comedy department, and he's trying to get new kind of fresh faces to do a Netflix comedy special. So he says, I'm a talent agent for renowned comedians worldwide. What should I ask you? It gave some great ideas. He says, okay, give me a list of comedians who have not done Netflix comedy specials. Great, up comes this list. And he says, okay, let's refine that. Now we'll include, originally he said hot comedians, but that triggered its trust and safety. Up and coming comedians. And then refine that to only comedians that are persons of color. And finally, he narrowed it down and said, regenerate to only include females. So now I had a list of 10 female up-and-coming comedians that were people of color that hadn't done Netflix specials. And he just was like, this would have taken me a week, and I wouldn't have got half of these names. This is a game changer, right? And so the key is to go department by department and have people have this kind of experience. I don't expect you to read this, but my point on this slide is the more specificity you have, the better results you're going to get. I'm going to leave you with this slide again, the exponential nature of this, the pace of change. I have seen ChatGPT 5. It's going to blow your mind, okay? It's not just a little bit better than what we've done. It's dramatically better, okay? And then lastly also, the horse has left the barn. You can't put your head in the sand. You can't ignore this. You have to engage. This is just happening too fast, and it's going to have too big of an impact.
Is that a stable diffusion image, or what?
Yes, it is, as a matter of fact. Yeah. All right, so that's it. Thank you very much.